Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I'm Charm, and today let's talk about books again, specifically nonfiction books. This is going to be like a 2023 book haul. I have not read any of these books yet, except for like one of them, and I'll start off with that one. But these are books that I bought like early last year. They have either been recommended, I saw a video about it, it was just something that I was searching and looking at. So yeah, but it is all nonfiction. That is, so maybe this is also a part of my 2023 reading goals, is to read more nonfiction to kind of feed myself, feed the soul. But one thing about me, I love fiction. And when it comes to nonfiction, I think like I can be very calculated. So I really want to digest it, really want to take it in. So it takes me so long to get through it, whether it's good or not. And I'm like, I need me a little story, a little sugar dagger. But anyway, so let's get right into it. I think it's about 25 books here, y'all. So let us get through them so that this video is not too long. So first and foremost, this is called Me, Myself, and Lies by Jennifer Rothschild. And the book is pretty self-explanatory. It's like, what do you say when you talk to yourself? How is it, that we speak to ourselves? I mentioned it before, a very calculated person, really have to fight against perfectionism and different things like that. And so it's like this book really talked about going in to what is called your thought closet. And it's all of the thoughts in our head, all of the thoughts in our brain, and paying attention to them and picking out what is a lie versus what is the truth. Okay, because just because the thought comes, that doesn't mean it has to stay there. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily true, because what I do does not define who I am. What people say about me does not define who I am. And so this was a really good read. And yeah, so I just finished this like at the probably December 31st, 2022. Got through this one. It was really good. And the style is kind of like, she tells her own experiences. She starts with like a story and breaks down all of these different practical steps that you can take to pay attention to your thoughts, how to better think and paying attention to the way that you talk to yourself. So that's first up there. The second book that I will hopefully read is called Healing for Damaged Emotions. I was watching a video the other day, and it was this woman, and she was talking about how this was really, really, really good. And so I'm kind of excited about it. I think it talks about like how to allow God to be compassionate with you as he frees you and heals you from your past and different things like that. So not too sure of exactly what it's about, but I'm excited to read, because one thing that I've been kind of discovering about myself is like, I'm paying attention, and it's like, are you led by your emotions? Like, emotions are important. Emotions come from God. They are a good thing, but they shouldn't dictate your entire life, right? Emotions are indicators, but they shouldn't dictate your life. And so I'm excited to read about this. I think for me, it's like, I don't have a therapist. I'm not in therapy. I'm praying it's me and the Lord. And so with a lot of these books, I was just, wanting to learn a little more, wanting to learn myself better, identify different indicators, different things in my life. So I don't want to repeat the same things. And I'm in a lot of self-reflection. And so that's where a lot of these books are. All right. So next up is called Rethinking Sexuality by Dr. Juli Slattery. And this book is about God's design for sex and why that matters. So I listened to a podcast on her recently, and the podcast was about masturbation and addiction to pornography. And it was so good because it didn't come from like a demonizing perspective. It's not like, oh, this is bad, you shouldn't do it, because, and even when it comes to masturbation, like there is not a specific word in the Bible that says masturbation. Like, it talks about sexual immorality and all of these different types of topics, but the word masturbation is not in it. And so the way that she was speaking about it and breaking it down was, you know, when it comes to what she called, you know, gray areas, it's like, is it okay? Is it not okay? Because I've heard different things when it comes to masturbation. Like, some people say, if you don't look at pornography and if you can masturbate without thinking about, you know, somebody else that's not your spouse or different things like that, then hey, which is kind of impossible, I guess, was the point that they were making, then it's okay. And so, you know, it's just, I'm interested to read what this is about and her take on it and the scriptural context behind, like, it's not a focus of demonizing this thing. It is this drawing you closer to God, though? And God created sex. So it's more so a focus on what was this created for, how you should use this versus what you shouldn't do. And it's like, you know, make your own decision based on that. So I'm very excited to read this book. Next up, The I Factor by Moody. And this is just talking about how building a great relationship with yourself is the key to a happy and successful life. So pretty self-explanatory here. I guess this is probably going to be similar to the Me, Myself, and Lies book. You know, and this is something that I was thinking about too. Like, you have all of these different types of relationships that you are in, but and me, when I become a parent, all of these different things like that, it's like, how can I be a good wife? How can I be a good mother? How can I really be good or, you know, effective in healthy relationships if I don't have, you know, one, a healthy relationship with God, and then two, a healthy relationship with myself, you know, because you can live a life where you're treating everybody good. You're there for everybody but you. And so, yeah, excited to read this one too. And next up on the docket, I'm really excited about this one. This is called Relational Intelligence by Dr. Dharius Daniels. And so this book is talking about relationships and knowing how to identify different relationships in your life. Like, sometimes there could be some people who are there forever. There are some people who are only there for a season, as some of us may already know. And so this kind of really dives into, one, having a vision for yourself, and then two, having a vision for the people that are in your life. Who is there that is just an acquaintance or just an associate, or there are some people who are advisors in your life. So knowing how to have these relationships, knowing how to identify the types of relationships that are in your lives. And, you know, I believe that is going to help you to have better relationships, help you to minimize, like, these unspoken expectations that happens in so many different relationships. And it's because you're not identifying who that person is. There are some people that you may have made your spouse that was supposed to be like a spiritual partner. It was never even supposed to be your spouse, you know? So I think this kind of dives into that, about these different types of relationships. So that's it on that. Okay, next up, we have In Pursuit of Purpose by one of my favorite authors, favorite speakers, favorite men of God, Dr. Myles Munroe. Let me tell you, he is deceased, but if this man was alive, I don't really go out doing all of the traveling, you know, to meet certain people or different things like that. I would have been in wherever this man was speaking at. His view on life, view on the kingdom of God was just amazing. So this one is pretty self-explanatory. I started reading it, didn't finish it. I told y'all at the beginning of the video how I can be when it comes to you know, nonfiction. So I'm in a better place, and I'm in a place where I'm seeking to learn more about me. So I'm hoping to finish these. We'll check back in at the end of the year to see how I did with that. So that's that one. This next one is not by Dr. Myles Munroe, but the forward is by him. It's by Dr. Clarence V. Boyd, and it's called Endangered Masculinity. So there's this couple that I love. And this was what her husband was reading, but I thought it was interesting, even though I'm not, a man or whatever. And it just talks about like the dynamic of families and the dynamic of men and the attack on masculinity. So interested to read about this one. And the next one is a really popular book that I have had for a while, but I just have not read. And it's called The Body Keeps the Score. For some of these nonfiction books, I'm going to listen to the audio and try to read it at the same time because, baby, some of these are thick. And I'm like, Lord, give me the time. But anyway, so the Body Keeps the Score, from my understanding, and I'll read Brain, Mind, and Body in the Healing of Trauma. So this is basically about how, we can have like psychological instances and episodes and different things that happen and different traumas in our life. And this talks about how those traumas that happen to us our body is affected by it. So yeah, excited to read that. And next up is one that is very similar. It's called, well, I won't say very similar, but it's called My Grandmother's Hand. And it has the same concept, but is racially like motivated, or it's the racial topic where it talks about the trauma that Black people have experienced. And I don't know if it's specific to Black because this says racial. So, but I do know that it's a Black author. And how, it has been said and it has been known that these effects of slavery, like the psychological effects of slavery, and how even though it happened all of these years ago, racism is definitely still very much real, very much here. And so this talks about how it's not only still impacting us psychologically, but physically as well. So it just kind of dives in and goes into that. Exciting. Next on the docket, this is called Medical Apartheid. And this is similar as well. It's talking about the physical effects of trauma and different things like that. But this is specific to medicine and like all of this distrust that Black people have with the healthcare field, medicine, and all those things, rightfully so, because we can get into it, but that'll be another video, talking about like what happened with Tuskegee, all these different things like that. And it just kind of goes into, and I'll read it, the dark history of medical experimentation on Black Americans from colonial times to present. So excited to read about that. Next up, this is called The Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health. Again, I mentioned that earlier. I'm about everything Black. I'm about all things, but I'm about everything Black. And so I'm really interested in like the mind, mental wellness, mental health, and that from like a scientific perspective, whether that is medicinal, whether that is like, this when it comes to psychology and sociology and all of these different types of behaviors. And so I think this one is pretty explanatory, but I'll read like the little small part here. Navigate an unequal system, learning tools for emotional wellness, and get the help that you deserve. So it's like we know that there is an issue there, but I think it talks about the issue briefly. It's not too thick. But it really goes into like those different practices that I think is basically there to say, hey, you're not alone. This is how you navigate. We know that we feel these types of ways, but this is how you navigate this. So excited to read this one. And next up, this is a book that I heard about a long time ago, years ago, that I'm like, let me read it. I keep hearing about it. And I believe it's real, but it's, again, similar. It's called post-traumatic slave syndrome. So we know about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and this is post-traumatic slave syndrome. And it just kind of dives into the psychological effects of Black people from slavery, from systemic racism, from that type of oppression, and how it affects the mind, affects the behaviors and different things like that. And so again, I haven't read it yet, so I don't know how deep it goes into that, but excited to read it. All right. And next up, we have Keep the Flame Burning. Now, this is old. I might have got this from like my mama's my mama's bookshelf or something like that. I know that this is like way back when she was first saved, and she was reading these types of books, like her and my godmom. And Keep the Flame Burning is just what it is, igniting the people of God for the next move of the Spirit. And so I've heard really great reviews about it, and I just want to read it for myself just to stay galvanized in the spirit and energized. And so, yeah, I'll probably be doing a review on that. Next up, Dr. Myles Munroe, Understanding the Purpose and Power of Prayer. This is a year that I am going to really dive into prayer. And I'm excited about this book because sometimes we can just do things, whether that be spiritually and in life in general, the natural, the spiritual, and not have a true understanding. And the word says, wisdom is a principal thing, get it. But with all thy getting, get an understanding. So I'm excited to see from his perspective and the things that he's learned and his experience with the Lord on the purpose and power of prayer, and really, really, really diving into that. So that's the first set of books there. Oh, y'all, it's a lot. Okay, so next up, we have Radical Forgiveness by Collin Tipping. And apparently he has like these 5 strategies on the process to forgiveness. And I'm not really sure about how deep it goes, but I know for me, I just want to learn more about forgiveness because I want to have a clear heart, and I want to be a person or have a heart that forgives. So I'm interested to know what he means by radical forgiveness, what that looks like and what it means, because I'm like, okay, some people are like, okay, you should forgive, but never forget. And then there's some people like put it into a sea of forgiveness like God. And I'm just over here on the fence like, okay, God can heal me, but I don't necessarily forget. So I'm interested to see what his strategies are when it comes to radical forgiveness. And next up is called The Subtle Power of Spiritual Abuse. This is self-explanatory. I don't even know how I found out about this book, but the little blurb here is recognizing and escaping spiritual manipulation and false spiritual authority within the church. I'm excited. I'm excited about this book because I've been in church my entire life, and I'm very, very, very grateful for that, very appreciative of it. But church hurt is real, and people experience it all the time. And spiritual abuse is heavy. It is impactful, and it is hurtful. So I'm excited to kind of dive in and see like how to identify that, you know, what they define as manipulation, different instances, what it looks like. And I'm pretty sure it probably has like testimonials, so to speak. And for me, and kind of how I am, it's like, you can't just tell me something and I take it all the time. You can't just tell me. I need to know why. I'm an inquisitive person. I want to understand. Give me the steps. Let's break it down. Let's talk about it. And let me make my own decisions from that. So I'm excited to see what this one here talks about. So next up, the highly sensitive person. How to thrive when the world overwhelms you. This one is self-explanatory too. I'm not into zodiac signs or anything like that. My birthday is in July. My dad, my sister, all of us are in July. Let me tell you something about us. Baby, we sensitive. We sensitive. Some, you know, a little more than others. But I know as hard as I am, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm a real G. Okay, yeah. But I'm sensitive too. And I wonder what this is about. I don't know. I want to see what it is that she's talking about. I know that she's like a psychotherapist or something like that. And she also calls herself a highly sensitive person. So I'm wondering. I just wonder what this is about. And excited to read. So yes. Next up, this one is a popular book. It was recommended to me by a friend, and it is called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Because baby, I don't know how to pronounce it. So anyway, yes, this is called The Power of Habit, why we do what we do in life and in business. And so how this was explained to me and how it was recommended was, it was a friend of mine. She was talking about her husband. And she was saying how he used to drink alcohol, but he didn't want to drink alcohol anymore, gave his life to Christ. And so every day after work, he would come in and he would get a beer out of the refrigerator and then go on about his business or whatever he had at home. That's what he did every single time. That was his habit. That's what he did. And so the habit stayed the same, but instead of him going home, going in the refrigerator, grabbing a beer, now it's a sparkling water or a club soda. So the habit, you know, is nothing wrong with habits. We are habitual creatures. That's what we do. But it's good habits versus bad habits, and healthy habits versus habits that are not so healthy. And so it's like, I think this is what this dives into. So I'm excited to read about that one. And next up, this book is called Who's Pulling Your Strings? How to Break the Cycle of Manipulation and Regain Control of Your Life. That's pretty self-explanatory. Manipulation is real. And I don't want to say that I'm weak-minded, but a lot of times people can be manipulated and not even realize that they're being manipulated. And that is something that I never want to do again. You know, when you get to a place in your life where you are doing a lot of things for a lot of people that you don't want to do, not because you're selfish, not because you have a hateful heart, but because you're being manipulated, because you have a big heart and you do care about people and you do love people. But the Bible says he loves a cheerful giver. So I'm learning, if I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it, because if I'm doing it without a cheerful heart, what is it benefiting anyway? So yeah, recognizing manipulation is always good. So yeah, and that's at home, at work, baby, at church, anywhere you need to know, because it could be in friend groups. It could be a lot of different areas. So that's that on that. We only have a few more books here, but this one is called Codependent No More: How to Stop Controlling Others and Start Caring for Yourself. So I'm gonna have to read a little bit on the back. What she means by this and how she defines codependency is the concept of losing oneself in the name of helping others. And so this is similar to me to, like, not necessarily manipulation, but it's like you don't want to live your life for other people to the point where there is no you, to where you don't know how to treat yourself. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what I think she dives into with this book that I'm interested to see, you know. And one thing that I know I learned last year is, what are you holding your identity to? Is your identity attached to education? Is your identity attached to religion? Is your identity attached to being a parent, as if that is all that who you are versus the core of who you are? So interested about this one. Next up, The Biology of Belief: Unleashing the Power of Consciousness, Matters, and Miracles. And so with this book, she speaks on the new scientific discoveries about the biochemical effects of the brain's functioning to show that all the cells of our body are affected by our thoughts. So my background, your girl was a biology major, okay? But your girl is also a child of the Most High God. I love me some Jesus Christ. And so for me, I just get super excited. It's like seeing the spiritual realm. I know that it's real, but then looking at the scientific aspects of it, and like the scientific aspects and how it proves certain things, that's so interesting to me. So I think I found this book on Amazon like years ago, and yeah, excited to read about that there. And next up is called Psycho-Cybernetics. And I think this is similar, but it's more so talking about like the mechanics of it and the mechanical aspect of your brain and how it affects the way that you think and different things like that. So yeah, tap into the power of your subconscious mind. This was recommended by a friend. Not really sure what it's about, but sharing it with you guys. That is here. Next up is similar. It's called The Power of Imagination. And I haven't read it yet. Look how thick this bad boy is. And these pages, I mean, these words, baby, they small. But this one is talking about how your imagination, right? The way that you think is probably more real than the physical world. Like, you're probably closer to God in your imagination, in your mind, than you are in the physical world and like the power of the mind. So interesting. Not really sure what how deep it goes, but yeah, I have a friend who's reading and she's like, it's been a year. She might still be at the beginning of it. So yeah. And lastly, Jesus MD by David Stevens MD. And I think he is the executive director of the Christian Medical Association. So he's a medical physician, and we know that Jesus is the great physician. And I think this is just a breakdown of that and his experiences as a physician, and that in comparison to the great physician, the spiritual side of it, which I love because, you know, hey, I love that. But yes, that is all I have for today. That is my huge 25 book nonfiction haul. And so thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If this was interesting to you, if you think it'll be helpful, send it out to a friend. And until next time.